All right, so welcome everyone to the WiDS Datathon University 2025 Kickoff. My name is Valerie Elliott. I run the WiDS Datathon program, and I'm here with so many other colleagues on the Datathon team. If you all just want to wave, and I'll let you all introduce yourselves as we go through today's content. And so we are here to talk about the WiDS Datathon University program and what we have in store for you for 2025. I know there are several instructors on the call who worked with us last year, and we also have lots of new instructors joining today to learn about the program. And we hope that you'll be joining the university program this year. And so we'll tell you what all of it's about. If you would like to introduce yourself, just put your name and your university in the chat. And it's always fun to hear where everyone's from and where you're joining in. And if there's time at the end to network, then we can do that at the end of the call. Also, if you have questions throughout the call, just put your name in the chat. If it's a quick question, we can take it along the way. Otherwise, we'll save most of the questions for the end, just so we can be sure to get through all of the content. Okay, so I'm going to start to share my screen and go from there. All right, do you all see my slides? Cool. So let's start with a little bit of what is WiDS. I know some of you are joining for the first time. And so at WiDS, we are really here to elevate women in data science worldwide by elevating, educating, and empowering women to achieve 30% representation of women in data science by 2030. That is our ultimate goal and mission of WiDS, and we develop a suite of programs to help achieve this mission. And so the WiDS Datathon is one really powerful program that was designed in support of our mission. And we really hope to collaborate with each and every one of you to help reach this goal within your classrooms. Oh, I didn't realize the slide was animated. Sorry. Give me a brief moment. Okay. So WiDS started in 2015 at Stanford University as an annual conference designed by Professor Margot Garrison. We realized that there weren't enough women on stage speaking. And so we developed an annual conference that really helped to put women on the podium at Stanford. And the conference took off. It sold out within a month. We had a lot of attendees and realized that we hit a niche. And so the next year, we developed a worldwide conference where we essentially took the Stanford conference and live streamed it online for other people to join. This again, it took off, and we realized we're really striking a chord here and started to develop an ambassador program where ambassadors bring WiDS as satellite events to each of their regions worldwide. I know some of you here on the call are ambassadors, and they've really helped us grow the program quite largely. From there, we developed our podcast to feature women and talk about how they've elevated their careers in data science, as well as our global WiDS Datathons to develop our annual predictive analytic competitions. In 2020, we developed the WiDS Next Gen program to bring data science to high school students and empower them to study data science at an early age. And then from there, we developed the WiDS workshops, which are essentially educational workshops held online to teach different aspects of data science. In 2023, we spun off from Stanford in order to grow our programs even more. And at this point, we have become an established independent nonprofit where we're able to really do more amplification of our programs across the world. In the fall of 2023 is when we first launched our University Datathon, which is what we're here to talk about today, and bring the Datathon into course curriculum, working with instructors around the world. And then finally, we've launched our Uplink platform, which is a platform for students to submit their resumes for job hire. So a little bit about our Datathon goals for this year. We're essentially here to lower barriers to entry into data science. We want to encourage students to hone their skill sets and build confidence for them to enter the field of data science. We also foster learning and enhance knowledge of data science skills, application, and career growth for students. We're going to go into this a bit more in our call today. And ultimately, across all of our WiDS programs, we want to provide women a sense of belonging. So let's talk a little bit about what is our Datathon. So our Datathon, as I mentioned, was developed in 2019 to bring participants worldwide together to discover and hone their data science skills. It's a really great opportunity to work on data sets that represent critical social impact challenges. In the past, we've covered everything from climate change, we've covered healthcare, we've covered predicting deforestation, we've covered all sorts of topics. And today we will unveil the topics for 2025. We essentially like to target both aspiring data scientists and those who are also experienced data scientists. And so you'll hear a little bit today about both of those challenges that we're developing at both levels. And ultimately, the Datathon, as I said, was developed to lower barriers to entry into data science by giving students an opportunity to work on a real and critical challenge. Our Datathons are hosted on Kaggle. If you haven't explored Kaggle before, I highly encourage you to check it out. Kaggle is a really great one-stop shop for data science communities and resources, challenges, data sets. They've got it all. And so we've been successful hosting our competitions here. And through this link, I'll share the slides out afterwards. You can check out our competition from last year and see how that's organized. Over the years, we've had a very large representation of women in data science participating in our Datathons. And so last year we had 75% who were women. And just to set a bit of a benchmark, most Kaggle competitions only see 20% women. And so that is obviously why we're here as women in data science, is to grow that number. We also see many of our participants being both beginners followed by intermediates. And so therefore we do design our global challenges for those that have no prior experience. They're able to tackle our Datathons and gain many new skills, both hard skills of learning different data science topics and also soft skills like building their confidence in the field of data science. So with this year's Datathon University program, as I said, we piloted this last year with about 70 universities in 23 countries. And as a part of bringing the Datathon to an educational context and working with all of you to bring it to your course curriculum, we're developing the WiDS Datathon Plus, which is the university edition. And so with this university edition, you can use it across all levels of students and fields of study. I'll go into that a little bit later in our call today. There's so many ways to use a Datathon within your course curriculum. What we're essentially doing is providing you with these real world data sets that are ultimately hard to get and giving you that ease and comfort with something to work on with your students. There's a listing here of a couple of the universities we worked with last year, and we're looking to grow the program even more beyond our 70 universities. All right, so why we are here today is to talk about next year's partnership. We cannot be more thrilled to partner with Anna Bauer's Women's Brain Health Initiative. When this opportunity came along, it was like there just couldn't have fit any better. With WiDS and with WBHI, it was just such a perfect alignment. And so we just couldn't be more excited to share with you a bit about why it's important to study women's health. And I am going to kick it off to Amy and Nina to help us talk about next year's topic. And I'll let you both introduce yourselves as well as you start to begin. So just let me know when you want me to flip the slides, and I'll flip the slides for you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Valerie, and hi, everyone. My name is Nina Miolan. I'm an assistant professor at UC Santa Barbara, and I'm here with Amy Kusilieski. She'll introduce herself, but she's a professor at Weill Cornell School of Medicine and Cornell University. And together we are the directors of the AI Center at the Women's Brain Health Initiative. And we are also really thrilled to be partnering on this amazing university challenge. So I'm going to present what is women's brain health and also what is our initiative and how we came up to co-organizing this university challenge. So first, what is women's brain health? Women's brain health research investigates conditions that are either uniquely, disproportionately, or differently affecting women. First, uniquely affecting women, there are some conditions that only humans with a uterus will experience. For example, menopause. And so women's brain health research will seek to answer questions such as, what is the effect of menopause on women's brain? Why do some women experience brain fog and others do not? Women's brain health also research conditions that disproportionately affect women to answer questions such as, why do women have Alzheimer's more often than men? Because more than 66% of Alzheimer's patients, so over 2/3, are women. And it's not because women live longer. Why is it the case? We do not know. And lastly, women's brain health researches conditions that differently affect women to answer questions such as, why does dementia present differently in women compared to men? That is a very intriguing question because for people with Alzheimer's disease, for example, women will be resilient to the symptoms longer, but then once they start developing the disease, they decline way more rapidly. Why? We also do not know. And despite the importance of all of these research questions, they actually still have no answer. Slide change. And this is because for far too long, biomedical research has excluded women and undervalued the study of women's health. So as an example, consider this study by Taylor, Prichett, and Jacobs. In their paper titled, The Scientific Body, Whose Body Does It Serve? They have surveyed the field of neuroimaging. And when MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, entered the mainstream in the 90s, it gave us researchers this amazing opportunity to study the brain and understand how it works, when it works, and what happens when it doesn't work. And this has led to this blue wave of neuroimaging papers that you can see on this chart. It's over 50,000 publications in neuroimaging since 1995. So this is really exciting. But you can ask, where is women's brain health in all of this? And to answer this question, you will have to squint really, really hard on the x-axis of this plot. If you do this, you might be able to see the tiny, tiny black lines at the very bottom. And these are everything that has been published about pregnancy, menopause, menstrual cycle, hormone therapy. We can almost not see it on this graph. It's confounded with the x-axis. And altogether, the studies of these health factors that are specific to women constitute less than 1% of the brain imaging literature. So put it another way, neuroscience and neuroimaging has overlooked aspects of the human conditions that are relevant to half of the world's population. And that is why we don't know more about why birth control may trigger depression or what happens to our brains during menopause. These are very essential questions, and we need to find out. Slide change. So today we find ourselves with a unique opportunity to buck the trend. And actually last year, women's brain health started to get traction. On November 13, President Biden announced the first ever White House initiative on women's health research. And a few days later, we launched the Ann S. Bowers Women's Brain Health Initiative. And our goal is to create the world's largest database dedicated to women's health. The director is Emily Jacobs, who you can see on these slides. And with her, we are driven by a radically simple idea, which is that progress in neuroscience will flourish when the health of men and women are valued equally. In other words, we are driven by a commitment to make neuroscience inclusive, both in terms of who gets to ask the questions and in terms of who is served by the answers. So at the Women's Brain Health Initiative, how do we do it? Next slide. We combine different types of data to advance knowledge. So first, we go broad and we collect big data. So this means we collect brain MRIs on a massive number of women. And this type of data combined with the horsepower of AI, we will be able to understand certain health factors like hormonal contraceptives and how they influence the brain. Second, we go deep. That's the deep phenotyping part. This is because brains don't exist in a vacuum. And besides the brain images, we may look at other types of data. For example, blood samples or wearable device that can give us data on how to monitor sleep, etc. And so we can understand how women's brain interact in this bigger biological landscape. And third, we go precise. This is what we call precision imaging. So in contrast to the big data approach, where we collect one image per participant, in precision imaging, we seek to collect many images of one person, massive amount of MRI data on each individual. And in that way, we can capture the brain as it changes over time with startling temporal resolution. So with these three pillars, we seek to create the world's largest database dedicated to women's brain health. Next slide. And that's where the Bowers AI core enters the picture with Amy and I. We are tasked with the mission to develop methodology to extract knowledge from this data. So our goal is to develop AI or machine learning methods to unravel the mysteries of the women's brains. And we have four goals. First, help all the researchers of the WBHI to harness the power of AI on WBHI data. Second, train the next generation of WBHI scientists. Third, and that's the one that's the most important for this talk, organize AI grand challenges. So this is why we are thrilled to be partnering with WiDS and Kaggle, because we really wish to organize these AI challenges to shed light on long overlooked questions on women's brain health. And we're talking today about the University Challenge, but stay tuned because there's going to be also a global challenge with WiDS and Kaggle that also will seek to answer questions on women's brain health on a different data set. And lastly, our fourth goal is to share the AI tools with the international community. So with the WBHI, not only we share the data, open source to the world, we will also share the models, open source to the world. And we believe that together we can make a strong impact on women's brain health. I'll give it to Amy to continue.
Great, thank you, Nina. So my name is Amy Kuziewski. I'm a professor at Weill Cornell Medicine and Cornell University. I've been working in sort of computational neuroimaging for the past 15 or so years now. And a big sort of area that I'm interested in is in sex differences and in women's brain health. And so some of the studies that we have looking at sort of differences between males and females. So as Nina mentioned, there's only this 0.5% that deals with issues specific to women's brain health, but there are a lot of studies that have collected data from male and female individuals. So there's been a sort of more investigation on sex differences in sort of neuroimaging metrics. And so these have identified sex differences in the brain. The most reliable are volume differences. So males tend to have larger global cortical gray matter and subcortical gray matter and white matter. Females tend to have stronger sort of connections between hemispheres, and males tend to have stronger within hemisphere connections. Females also tend to have more sort of functional connections or co-activation of regions within a network, while males have this value that's greater between networks. And these differences are likely resulting from a complex interplay of biological, either genetic or hormone or development, and sociocultural factors. And so relevant to today's sort of announcement of the university challenge, there are also sex differences in brain disorders. So here we have these stacked bar plots where the female prevalence is on the left side to the left, and then the male prevalence of the cases per 100,000 are for the males are on the right. The left panels for neurodevelopment disorders like autism, ADHD, and intellectual disabilities, while neuropsychiatric disorders that sort of hit midlife are in the middle, and neurodegenerative disorders that hit sort of toward the aging population are on the far right. And you can see that there are some inequalities in those stacked bar plots, where we have ADHD has a higher prevalence in males, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then also males have a higher prevalence of autism. And then in the neuropsychiatric sort of stages, women tend to have more anxiety and depressive disorders, while men tend to have more schizophrenia and substance use disorders. And then, as Nina mentioned on the right, females tend to have higher rates of Alzheimer's disease, while males tend to have higher rates of Parkinson's disease. And so one of these sort of reasons for the prevalence differences in particular for ADHD might be that there are varying symptoms in their presentation. So ADHD is often underdiagnosed in females, as they have more inattentive symptoms compared to boys who have relatively higher rates of hyperactivity, which is a lot of times easier to detect. And so one of the questions we want to answer, and it's relevant to this university challenge, is are the brain sort of areas and connections that map to these psychopathological factors different between males and females? So next slide, please. So a lot of those results that I talked about in that previous slide are related to neuroimaging data, right? So this is an example of an MRI. I don't know if anybody's had an MRI before, but it's basically a big magnet that you slide into, and sort of aligns all of the protons in your body, aligned to the magnet's sort of field. And then they apply a pulse, and then the protons sort of relax, and you can actually collect that data and reconstruct the sort of soft tissue properties within the brain. And so here at the top, you can see an example of an anatomical image where you have the ventricles, or these black areas of where the CSF is. And then you have the gray matter and white matter sort of cortical folds. You can kind of see those at the top. There are also other modalities, things like diffusion MRI, that can trace these sort of wiring in your brain, how the different parts of your brain communicate using these physical connections. And then more relevant to this sort of challenge is the functional MRI. So this is actually an MRI that allows us to sort of get a non-invasive picture of how the brain is activating over time. And so this allows us to sort of look at the patterns of connections and how different regions sort of fire together or depolarize together and polarize together. So here on the bottom, you can see a matrix. And this matrix is actually the functional connectome, or the brain's functional connectome. And what it represents is each row and column in there is a different region of the brain, so a different part of the brain. And each entry in the matrix is telling you how related two of those regions are in time. So if they're time series, if they're activating together all the time, and deactivating together all the time, then they're going to have a very strong value, in a very high value in that. So that's the functional connectome. So that's the most important piece of information that we want to take away from this slide. Next slide, please. So now let's say you have this functional connectivity matrix, and it's extracted from all of these different people, and you want to do some kind of mapping to behavior. So this is what we call brain behavior mapping. So here we have an MRI that's taken in a person, and then outside of the scanner, that person completes some kind of cognitive or physical or behavioral test. And let's say in the data set that we're going to be talking about, it's focused on psychopathology. So it's this childhood behavioral checklist where it's kind of measuring the psychopathology of different behaviors for the individual. And in the sort of more data science part, you take this sort of functional connectome from the person that you extract from the MRI, and then you use some kind of statistical or machine learning or AI model to map the values in that matrix to the behavioral scores that you take outside of the scanner. So this is what brain behavior mapping is, largely speaking. Can you go to the next slide, please? And I think the best way to sort of introduce brain behavior mapping, especially functional connectivity to behavior, is by giving an example. So this is work that was done by my former PhD student, Elisha Damala, and I. And so this was actually looking to see if the mapping between the functional connectivity in the brain to cognitive score was different between males and females. So all we did was we trained a machine learning model, basically it's ridge regression, to look at the functional connectivity matrix and predict some cognitive score. And so we did that for males only and for females only, and then we tested it on the opposite sex. So here we actually saw there were very similar levels of accuracy for the flipped models as they are for the sex-independent models. And so it does seem like the models do pretty well, maybe with an exception of fluid cognition, which seems to be more predictable in males. But it seems like the accuracy of the models is pretty similar across the sexes. If we look at the connections that were important in the prediction, so kind of unwrapping that box that does the brain behavior mapping and looking at which connections are important, we actually see there's a lot of overlap between males and females as well. So this really showed us that there aren't that many differences, and that the similarities between the brain behavior maps of male and female seem to be pretty similar, at least for this cognitive score. Next slide, please. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the University Challenge, and this sort of topic is unraveling the mysteries of the female brain. And so we'll tell you a little bit more about the data set and the exact challenge that we'll have for the University Edition. If you could go to the next slide. Okay, so this is based around a data set that was collected from the Child Mind Institute. It's called the Healthy Brain Network. And so this was actually a really big undertaking. And they did MRI in about 1,700 adolescent individuals aged 5 to 21. And here we can then take that fMRI and extract the functional connectivity matrices. So we have this sort of matrix per person that describes their brain network. And then we also have, out of the scanner, our behavioral measure, which is called a p-factor. And this p-factor is sort of a low-dimensional, single scalar representation of psychopathology. And we also have other things like age, sex, other demographics, race, and in-scanner motion, which is always an important thing because it can sort of be an artifact in functional MRI. So the challenge then is to predict this p-factor, or the measure of psychopathology, from the functional connectivity matrix that's derived from the neuroimaging data. And this will be a continuous prediction, so let's say regression. And one of the important parts of our challenge is that the model accuracy must be equal for both of the sexes. So we want to focus on making a model that is not biased towards male or female accuracy. And then the winner is going to be the one that has the highest average accuracy across males and females in our held back test set. Some of the skills that we're going to develop are going to be working with this high dimensional data sets. So we have these matrices that could be either high dimensional or low dimensional, depending on the level of the challenge that you want to work with. We will provide both a low and high dimensional functional connectivity matrix. And then, of course, things like using prediction models and the considerations that go along with that, things like cross-validation, regularization, or under overfitting, perhaps even dimensionality reduction. And the methods that are used could either be something as simple as a ridge regression or graph CNNs, and things that are more complicated could be used as well. But the overall question that we want to answer is the brain behavior map for psychological traits different between males and females in this adolescent population? And I'll turn it over now. Thanks.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you, Amy and Nina. That was just so great to hear. Just give the context behind why this is important to study, and to give that overarching picture. So Sharda, would you like to go next and talk about
Sure.
the global challenge?
Thank you. Thank you, Valerie. I'm Sharda Kalanidhi. I'm Technical Director of the WiDS Datathon. And it's been really fantastic to work with Amy and Nina in developing this past Datathon. We learned so much. This is a very interesting, very rich and deep data set. And I can tell we always struggle to find this sort of happy medium between challenges for beginners and intermediate. And there is, enough of a problem, the problem statement that, beginners will have a lot of resources, will be able to work on the problem set, as well as advanced university practitioner will be able to work on more advanced problems. So we're able to provide that range, and it's really fantastic. So I really thank Amy and Nina for that. And we're also working on the global challenge. And we're still finalizing the details, but we think it's going to be about neuroimaging as well. Neuroimaging, data predicting behavior, symptoms, or disease, possibly sex differences in dementia, Alzheimer's disease, perhaps menstrual cycle problems or sex differences in the effects of parity and effects of sex hormones on the brain, or sex differences in adolescent developments. These are all different problems that we're still exploring, and we will have more details in the coming months. But thank you very much, Amy and Nina, for a fantastic collaboration.
Great, thank you. So just to reiterate, there's a lot going on here, right? There's some big problems to solve and to look at. And so how can this be used within your classroom setting? First of all, we developed this because we think this can really provide a unique learning experience for your students that they might not otherwise get. And we do supply resources and tutorials to help you through that, to establish some hands-on projects with your students. You have access to data, obviously, but again, we know as instructors, that's really hard to find access to well-curated and clean data. And so that is definitely what you get participating in our Datathon programs. We hope that this helps you both enhance and enrich your curriculum, and we will provide some samples on how you can do that. But again, looking at such complex data sets, this gives such different ways for your students to bring in different skill sets that they might want to use and work together in collaborative settings. Broad applicability. So as Sharda and Amy and Nina have all mentioned, we're looking at options that will address both beginner and advanced level students. So you can pick the path that works best for you. And lastly, by participating in the program, you have access to a global community. So we'll put all your students in a community where they can all interact with one another, and therefore giving them different perspectives to learn from and just glean so much insight. And so one big element of the Datathon is that we do ask that teams are made up of 50% who identify as women. And so we will ask that instructors try to meet this goal within their classrooms, and we challenge you to achieve those kinds of team sizes. What we find when we do have 50% who identify as women on each team is that it actually up levels the confidence of the students and their ability to have their voices heard in these kinds of competitions. Geez, I am having technical issues today. Okay, class examples. And so I mentioned that we're looking at both beginner and advanced. And so what you can do, this is how you can bring it to the ground. So let's say you have a 1-unit course, or you're teaching like a data science 101 entry course, or you're even looking to integrate this into a college club activity. You might be looking at our WiDS Datathon global challenges that are targeted to that beginner level. If you have, let's say, a 3-unit course, let's say your students are doing more thesis work and research projects, they might want to really get their hands dirty and dive into the University Plus challenge that Amy just went over. And so again, depending on how this provides the best value to your students, you can pick the modules that work best for you. You can also work on both challenges with your students. And so we do ensure that both challenges are uniquely different from one another. And so you can encourage your students to participate in both. We essentially provide the structure, the foundation, the resources, and we let you use it in a way that will work best for you. So I'm going to pause there. And I know we've done a lot of talking. I'm actually going to even stop sharing my screen for a second. We have some instructors in the room who have done an excellent job working on the Datathon 2024 with their students. And I want to invite two of them to just give a brief 3 to 4 minute synopsis of your experience with the Datathon coming from an instructor's perspective. We have both Letitia and Emily in the audience, and they both used it in such different ways. And so I'd love to just hear a minute from each of them on their experience before we go on to the next part of the presentation. So who wants to go first? Letitia, I see you. Or Emily, you both took your video off or on. So I'll let you guys battle out who wants to go first.
Emily, you can go ahead.
Okay. So hi, everybody. My name's Emily Latta, and I teach at a very small women's college in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we are just starting a data science program in our math and computer science department, and I'm kind of spearheading that effort. And so I've had a lot of students coming to me wanting to do like research projects, either through our 3-credit like research course, or they have an honors thesis that they're trying to complete. And so last year, I had an honors thesis student who came, and I just happened to stumble upon this meeting last year, this exact same meeting last year. And when I heard it, I was like, this is perfect. So I shared the recording with my student, and she was 100% on board. And so she did the university challenge for her honors thesis project. And it couldn't have been easier for me as an instructor to get all that up and running. Yeah, so once the, so just to give you a little bit about her background, I mean, she had some data science experience. She has basically like a minor in data science, I would say, but she is a computer science math double major. So she had a very strong background, and she really dove into this challenge, and I let her just do it, you know, on her own. She learned a lot about data cleaning, feature engineering. She kind of broke off and learned about, she decided she wanted to learn how to do random forest modeling. She basically taught herself that as part of the challenge, since we didn't have a course in that yet. And she also learned a lot about like presenting her results. So she presented these results in the spring at, Meredith has like a celebrating student achievement day, and there's basically no class, but students present their research. And so she did that with the challenge, and it was a very good experience for her, and she really, really loved it. And like I said, for me as an instructor, it couldn't have been easier with the upskill workshops that they provided like all year. You know, she was watching those along the way with me. And so it was a very fun experience for both of us. And I'm looking to do it again this year with another honors thesis student, and I'm hoping to incorporate the global challenge in the spring in one of my kind of beginner data science classes too.
Wonderful. Thank you, Emily. Letitia, why don't you go next?
Great. I'm really happy to hear how Emily was able to use it, because I think that's really a great way to incorporate. And I actually started to brainstorm how to incorporate it with like research students and students who have like a thesis or a project. So in my case, well, I lecture at the University of the West Indies, and we are part of 5 landed campuses. So while I'm at the St. Augustine campus in Trinidad, I also teach an online course for the campus in Antigua. And those students, actually, they are part of the School of Computing, Science, Computing, and AI. So they're doing like a bachelor's degree that just doesn't necessarily focus on data science, but they have like some computer science courses, they have probability and statistics, and they have a myriad of courses also involving like business type studies. So last year, when I taught that cohort, it was a small class of about 11 students, and the Datathon, the university Datathon came up. I wanted to kind of break away from more the theoretical aspects of just learning probability and statistics to actually giving them like a real life project and problem. So I centered their project around the Datathon, but I didn't use the entire data set. Like I spoke about the entire data set, but I gave them a subset of the variables to kind of like just ease them into it, because this would be their first time actually understanding how to analyze the data using software and these types of things. And it was really interesting, because I thought initially they would be very intimidated. And they were at first when they saw all the data, but when I gave them like a subset for their projects and I put them into 3 different teams, it was really nice to see how they were able to use just simple like exploratory data analysis and a regression model to really understand the insights from the data. And then they actually did a presentation on the data set as well. So I felt in that case, they really learned from really getting the practical aspect of not only just learning like some simple data science techniques, but also working in a team. And I was hoping to probably advance them along to enter the Datathon this year, but I think some of them said next year, hopefully they'll jump into it when they feel a little more confident. So in that way, I thought it was nice to probably just give like undergraduate students who just came out of secondary school, just a context of what a data challenge looks like, and then sort of ease their mindset into like, this is how the approach would be. And I'm hoping this year to probably advance some of the models, other types of regression models and these types of things within the next class to sort of kind of give them a little more of a step up from the last class. So I thought it was really fruitful to kind of use the real life data in the classroom in that sense. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. Such different ways that you both used it, which is what I think speaks really strongly to what we're trying to do here with the students. And so you can really slice and dice in any way that makes the best sense for you and your classrooms. All right, Shisu, are you ready? I'm going to kick it off to you next. Let me get
Yes, I am. Hi, everyone. My name is Shisu Lyons. I'm the Executive Director of Women in Data Science. And I want to thank the previous speakers, and so excited to be here along with WBHI to announce this Datathon to you all. I come from a career in the corporate world. So I joined WiDS a little over a year ago and realized that this world of women data science talent is an awesome community to be part of, and something that really needed to be amplified. So I'm adding the company's perspective, the lens into this conversation now. And having been in the position of leading global data science teams, the challenges that we face in the corporate world is to really figure out how to tap into such diverse talent and introduce innovation, different perspectives, different life experience perspectives. And because I had a global role, that was so important. As we faced clients around the world, we needed to really have solutions that address business problems the way they come forward in a localized manner in terms of requirements and needs of our clients. And I always struggled trying to figure out, how do I hire from these universities? And my company, no different from many out there, we had our usual suspects, right? We had the 5 universities that we always went to, and we knew their programs. We had worked with these universities for many years. But what that created is a community, a data science team were like-minded and very difficult to break out and try different things. And I had roles where I had to lead these data science teams to create new solutions. So that became a big problem for me. And it is a big problem for many companies out there. So let's go to the next slide. And it's really a productivity issue, right? It's not that we don't want to, we want to, but then we get bogged down in the whole recruiting process. So now let's flip to the job seekers challenge, right? So your students, when they get their degrees, they're going to be looking for jobs. And this article was really startling for me. It was just recently published on Wall Street Journal. And it talked about how the landscape looks like once your students get degrees and seek jobs. And out of almost 1,000 CVs submitted online, the one candidate that got that job wasn't even one of those CVs. So what happens is that a lot of candidates are just networking, right? Looking for friends, families, friends of their parents, neighbors to look for jobs. And there's really nothing wrong with that. In fact, it has always been about connections and tapping into a broader network. And what is happening, however, is that as AI is being used to create a lot of very compelling versions of these candidates through very compelling CVs and cover letters and all that, it has become very difficult for those underrepresented who don't have the access to network to be able to stand out amongst the thousands of job seekers looking for a very limited number of jobs out there. And then the other thing that's happening, which is the startling part, is that in a world where jobs are found and landed, that system goes against people of color and also women, because the network within these companies, as you can imagine, are not representative of them. So you know that people tend to hire people who look like them, who think like them. So this surge of using the need for networking and connections is shown to be disadvantaging women and people of color. And that's what that chart, and it's difficult to see, is showing. Next slide. So what we would like to do is have the Datathon bring the two parties together, solve a need that we know exists out there, and we see that the Datathon as a unique opportunity that benefits companies by allowing companies to tap into the students through the Datathon, through your facilitation as instructors using the Datathon, allow the companies who are sponsoring WiDS to access, to interact with the students as they're going through the Datathon challenge, at the completion of the Datathon challenge. And I have to tell you, we haven't figured out all the tactical operational details, but we see that the University Datathon is really promising to be at the center of meeting the needs of the companies and also benefiting the students. So ultimately, we think that the Datathon is really the key to creating a better interview experience and results for both parties, the companies as well as the students.
Great.
Is there another slide, Valerie? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You got them all.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for outlining that. This is something we're really just thrilled to tap into, and we really think this is the next phase of University Datathon, is to really make these connections. And so as
Actually, Valerie, can I just speak off the cuff? You know, you can't hold me back. So one more comment. To the instructors who are new to WiDS, if you go to our website, there is a button or an option to go into Uplink. And Valerie had mentioned this as something that we launched early this year. And it's, full transparency, it's very early. It's version 0.5 of the solution. And what it is right now is a job board. What we envision Uplink to be, and this year's University Datathon is going to be critical to make this happen, is we want Uplink to be the community for students and instructors and company representatives to interact, to be supportive, to help students build their connections into their future employment world, right? Very early on. So it could be a freshman. You don't have to be actively looking for jobs, but it gives the students an early view and ways to really connect with the culture of their future employers. And this community platform that we want to build under Uplink is what WiDS has in mind. And so far, when we have described and shared this vision with our sponsors, their reaction has been very positive. Thank you, Valerie.
Of course, you say it much more beautifully than I could. All right. So we'll keep you all posted on that, but we do want to plant that seed in your head because this is the direction that WiDS is going. Okay. All right. We have one more slide. So overall, we provide all the resources you need to be successful. Meetings, webinars, and office hours for instructors. So if there is something that you need, if there is support that you like from us, we're always happy to jump on calls and to host different office hours for you all to connect with one another. You also get access to the global Datathon community and also the global WiDS community in general. And so we'll put you all in a community where each of you can talk with one another. And I've heard many questions of instructors saying, well, how did someone else do this? Well, let's connect you guys so you can talk too and learn from each other. And so we'll give you access to that. We also provide resources and workshops and videos to help you and your students be successful with this particular data set. And so there will be technical materials available. And then lastly, class resources, sample curriculum, best practices of how to bring this to your class. You have that too. And so all of this together will be a one-stop shop platform for you to access all of these resources and connect. For those instructors who are returning, we did use Slack last year. We will be developing a new platform this year that we're in the middle of kind of tying the bow on. And we will add all of you to the new platform the beginning of September, where you can go and access everything that you need for you and your students. And so next steps before we open it up to questions, if you are a new instructor, I know there's lots of you on the call today. If you decide you'd like to proceed further with us, please apply today to integrate the Datathon in your course. This will put you in our system and include you in all of the upcoming communications and data sets and everything that you need. And so please apply if you haven't already. If you are coming back this year and you already worked with us last year, you don't need to fill it out again. We will add all of you to the resource platform to access everything you need in the beginning of September. So please look out for communications about that. And then next, we will launch the University Challenge that Amy and Nina described for us in the middle of September. And that's when you'll be able to access the data set and start to work on it with your students. That challenge will be open all the way through the end of June. And it's not because it takes that much time to work on the challenge, it's to give you the flexibility of when you want to use it with your students and what works best with your course schedule. And then we will open the Global Public Challenge in January, and that will be open through the end of April. Spread the word. I cannot stress this enough. If you are a returning instructor and you think that other faculty or other courses within your university would also benefit from Datathon, spread the word to them. Let them apply with us as well. And so we'd love to have we'd love to create a ripple effect with the Datathon University program and continue to grow the universities. If you have a partnering university that you have close relationships with, spread the word to them as well. So really, we're looking to get all of your assistance in spreading that. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I see there's been some questions in the chat, and so we do have about 7 minutes or so to answer some questions. All right, will the recording be made available? Yes, absolutely. I will share out the recording to this meeting to all of the instructors that you can share. I should start at the top of the question. Sorry, I see them coming in. All right, Amita, you asked, oh wait, no, sorry, there's one above. All right, Lisa, you represent Sinclair College, which is a 2-year college in Dayton, Ohio. You're happy to see that we offer a beginner level. Are you aware of the degree to which 2-year community colleges participate in the challenge, and any words of wisdom if we want to promote this to our students? So absolutely, this is definitely applicable for community colleges. We've had some community colleges last year who also participated. Was there a specific, we'll also give you guys, items to help promote this to your students, whether that be some flyers and materials to help get your students involved. Was there something specific that you were asking that would be helpful for us to address, Lisa? And feel free to take yourself off mute as well. Okay, well, let us know if there's something else specific about the community colleges that we can address, and we're happy to do that. Amita, you asked which companies or entities other than WIDS and participating institution, if any, will be interacting with the Datathon participants, or does that typically not happen because there are too many students participating? Was that in regards to what Chisu was talking about, Amita?
No, just in terms of the actual the project or the challenge that the students would be working on. Obviously, it seems like UC Santa Barbara is the owner, keeper, lead on that. So I didn't know if there would be interaction with the entity that provides the data set.
We will be having some videos and probably 1 or 2 live calls with Amy and Nina and their team so that your students can interact directly with them as well.
And also there will be an opportunity for the advanced students to work on more research problems. So we will provide the beginner and the actual data set, but there will also be some research questions that Amy and Nina will provide that advanced students can work on. So that there will be that opportunity as well.
Yeah, Amita, does that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Miriam, is the data set open publicly or just for instructors? So the WiDS Datathon University Challenge is exclusive to the university program here. So both yourselves as instructors and your students. And so once you sign up with us to be in the program, we do give you access to the data set. It's a special link because it's private on Kaggle. And all of your students can access the data set through the links that we give you. And so my answer will be instructors and your students for the University Challenge. For the Global Datathon that opens in January, that one is completely public. So that one is open to everyone here on the call and your students. And we also invite our Global Datathon WIDSers all around the world to participate too. Okay. And yes, as I mentioned, I will send out the recording and the slides. Does this work also with research institutes or just universities? Great question. So far, we've only tapped into universities. This is something that we could explore in the future. At the moment, we're targeting universities.
But if you do participate in the challenge, like I mentioned, we will have research questions that will be provided. So there will be advanced research questions. So if you work through the university challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just you have to work through the actual program as we structured it.
Yeah, at the moment it's universities only. Brian said, thank you. You're very welcome. I know you're from UC Irvine. We hope you join us. Nimet, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your names wrong. Please correct me. Do we form the teams in our schools or do students get teamed up with others from other schools? I'll start with that question. That's a great question. So first of all, obviously your students can form teammates within their own classrooms. Your students will also be added to a community space within our WIDS network where they're welcome to collaborate with one another, and we definitely encourage that. And so last year, I think in Romania, we had students across different Romanian universities who cross-collaborated together in teams. And so I'm going to leave that up to you as the instructor of how you want to allow your students to cross-collaborate. But just know that from our perspective, they're welcome to, but I'll leave that to you if you want to allow and facilitate that as well. Also, is it open to undergrad or grads or both? Definitely both. So both undergraduates, graduate students, master's, PhD, all of the above. So you can encourage all your students to participate in both of the challenges. Shilpa, great. I'm glad you'll be joining us again this year. Lisa said, thank you from your question above. Sarah, what is the workshop cadence, and are these open to students or only educators? I'm with MongoDB and would love to support. Yeah, so we're building out our cadence. We're gonna have a mix of both live and recorded workshops because we do want to make the resources available at, access at any point, but there will be some that are live as well. Also, typically for the global challenge, we do have a live workshop cadence that's about like once a week for the first month or two of the challenge to get people off and rolling. And so there will be a mix of both, and those, yes, they are open to your students. And so workshops will be sending those invitations out to your students. We are Stanix. You said we are still at the early stage of data science here at the University of Yaoundé. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing it right. We don't offer data science courses. Can I work as an individual student? Interesting. So you don't yet have data science. Okay. Other opportunities that we found a good fit are also like math or statistics courses are good courses that could be a good alignment. I have had, or last year we did have some students work individually on like a research project. Taking that angle works well individually. So I would say, if you have the capability to do it as an individual student, you're welcome to, but also look at these other programs. If you have, math, statistics, computer science, those are also good fits for the challenge. Does anyone else want to expand on that? Okay, does that help you a little bit? And I'm happy to talk with you further on that too. Yeah, I see the thumbs up. Okay. Well, excellent. So I know we're at the top of the hour. I want to respect your time. If you have to jump, feel free to. If there's any more questions, we're happy to stay on another minute or so to answer any final questions. Okay, I don't see any yet. All right, and I see people leaving. So thank you all for joining us today. It was just such a pleasure. We hope you gained some good insight, and we'll talk with you soon.
Thank you.